hearing is that, like I just pointed out a few minutes ago, that the CJI has said that perhaps these votes should be counted and the results be declared on the basis of that. Ananya, my colleague, joining us, getting us more details. Ananya, we're given to understand this is just an observation at the point. It's not an order on the recounting of votes.
Well, definitely, it's just a suggestion that the Chief Justice of India has just now given. We have to understand that this is right now, at this point of time, just an observation. The final order is yet to come from the topmost of the country. But definitely, somewhere or the other, these votes have been seen by the Supreme Court to be somewhere or the other. These ballots have been seen to be somewhere or the other, wrong, to be correct. And that's the reason why Supreme Court has very, very clearly and categorically noted that, somewhere or the other, these votes need to be recounted. And that's the reason why the 8 ballot papers in question can actually be considered to be right. But all of this is at this point of time an observation. The final orders are yet to come, so we'll have to wait and watch for that. But definitely, somewhere or the other, this returning officer might be in a little trouble with the Supreme Court, completely coming down on him.
Absolutely. Just yesterday, the doubts were raised and the Supreme Court even came down and asked if prosecution should be done as far as this returning officer was concerned. So legal action is something that he could be facing as well at the end of this hearing?
Well, that is something that we might not preempt, but definitely, some kind of a action can actually be initiated if at all the Supreme Court feels that he was, not only beyond his duty, but doing something that was beyond his duty, but also had, made statements before the court and was trying to mislead. However, all of that can only be, seen only after the Supreme Court begins to pronounce his order. We are still awaiting for the Chief Justice of India, who is still deliberating along with the other judges as to what has to be done in this particular case. But a clear indication had come in from the topmost of the country that the result should be declared only after these 8 votes are considered to be valid, and then counting can actually begin in this particular case.
Right, Ananya, do stay on with us. That hearing still continues in the Supreme Court, but on the back of what happened yesterday and the strong observations that were made by the CJI, the Aam Aadmi Party, of course, coming out and claiming vindication. Listen into some of those reactions.
तो ये तो दिखाता ही है कि क्या कर रही है बीजेपी चुनाव कैसे, जब उनके मेयर ने कल इस्तीफा दे दिया, ये जाहिर है कि उन्होंने गलत काम किया था, गलत तरीके से उनका मेयर बना था, उन्होंने चुनाव में धांधली की थी, ऐसे ही चुनाव में धांधली करके जीतते हैं और फिर अगर जीत ना पाएं तो लोगों को खरीद लेते हैं। ऐसे जनतंत्र कैसे चलेगा? अगर हार गए तो यार दूसरों को भी सरकार चलाने दो।
भारतीय जनता पार्टी, उनके प्रिसाइडिंग ऑफिसर, उनके चुनाव के अंदर उनकी बेईमानी बहुत साफ साफ एक्सपोज हो गई है। जिसने उस कोर्ट की हियरिंग को देखा होगा, उसके बारे में पढ़ा होगा, उनको समझ में आ गया होगा भारतीय जनता पार्टी एक छोटे से मेयर के चुनाव के लिए इतनी बड़ी बेईमानी करने के लिए तैयार है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट भी साफ साफ कह रहा है कि भाई सीसीटीवी में दिख रहा है। और जिस तरीके से और पार्टी के पार्षदों को लुभाकर अपने यहाँ लाने की कोशिश, जिसको हॉर्स ट्रेडिंग कहा जाता है, ये आज के जो राजनीतिक परिवेश है उसके ऊपर बहुत बड़े सवाल उठाता है।
Another returning officer is facing the heat, even though we've seen the political equations really change. The mayor has already resigned. So whether there are re-elections that happened or whether these votes are going to be recounted, that is something that we will have to keep an eye out on. We'll try and reconnect that line with my colleague who's getting us details of what's transpiring in the Supreme Court. Remember, this is day 2 of the hearing in the Supreme Court as far as the Chandigarh mayoral elections are concerned. An observation that was being made, it's not an order just yet, but the observation that was being made by the Chief Justice was that the 8 votes which were treated as invalid by the returning officer should be now recounted. They will be held valid. That's an observation he was trying to make, a suggestion rather. Whether or not that is a part of the final order, we'll have to keep an eye out on. Listen into some more reactions that are pouring in.
When the proceedings were resumed, it was brought to the notice of the court that the mayor has resigned. But the court has directed and recorded the statement of the presiding officer, in which he has admitted that he has defaced 8 ballot papers and taken the ground that they were already marked by the candidates. And further, the court has said that the entire record, which is lying with the Registrar General of the High Court, be summoned and produced in safe custody before the Supreme Court tomorrow at 2 o'clock. and the court will take further action after seeing the original record.
ਆਲਰੇਡੀ ਸੁਪਰੀਮ ਕੋਰਟ ਦੇ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੋਟਿਸ 'ਚ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ। ਅਸੀਂ ਸੁਪਰੀਮ ਕੋਰਟ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਸਲਾਹ ਦੇ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ? ਇਹ ਤੇ ਸੁਪਰੀਮ ਕੋਰਟ ਤਾਂ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਤੇ ਐਕਸ਼ਨ ਲੈ ਰਹੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਤੇ ਸੁਪਰੀਮ ਕੋਰਟ ਆਪਣਾ ਫੈਸਲਾ ਲਏਗੀ, ਅਸੀਂ ਉਸ ਫੈਸਲੇ ਦਾ ਆਦਰ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ।
Arunima is also now joining us, getting us more perspective on this. Arunima, that hearing is currently underway in the Supreme Court. We're getting more details of what's transpiring. We're given to understand now that the video of the voting process is being played out as we speak.
Yes, that's what Ananya is reporting. He's monitoring the court proceedings, and the way things have shaped up so far, the court is trying to ascertain whether the alleged defacement of the ballot papers was just a dot or a mark, as was being alleged by the defense, or it was a deliberate ploy to ensure that the results swung in a particular direction. The presiding officer, or the former presiding officer, Anil Masih, has not had it easy since yesterday. Personally quizzed, put to cross-questioning by the Chief Justice of India. I do not think that there is a precedent of such a cross-questioning by the Chief Justice. And therefore, he's been put to some very tough questions by the Supreme Court, led by none less than CJI himself. And now the ballot papers are being checked to see, the video is being checked, I beg your pardon, to see if what happened there, what was the sequence of event, if there is any fresh evidence that can be brought out after viewing the video, and that's what is happening inside the courtroom at the moment.
Right, and as far as that video is concerned, yesterday, Arunima, questions were being raised about the conduct of this particular returning officer. The CJI also asked why was he looking into the camera as he's captured on that CCTV footage. There's a defense that has come to the fore based on that as well. They're going on to say that that's not a guilty man looking at the camera, but he was just checking if things are being recorded or not.
Yes, Mukul Rohatgi is, standing up for Masih, and he says that there were, commotion. There was complete commotion, and that's why the then presiding officer, was looking at the video because there was so much happening, and he wanted to get a hang of what was happening there. The charge against him, of course, is different. The charge against him is that of malafide behavior. The charge against him is deliberate defacement of the ballot papers, so that the complete electioneering process is swung in a particular direction. Those are the charges against him. And what the court has also observed, and this is not an order yet, but the court has also observed that indeed all of this happened in commotion and there was no malafide, and it's now evident that those 8 ballots that were considered invalid, if that was not done on purpose and if there were only minor problems with those ballots, then should we allow those 8 votes to be counted? If those 8 votes are ultimately counted, if that is the final order, it could swing the results once again. So we'll have to wait and watch if finally the court orders this. But right now, all we are told is that they're watching the video to ascertain the sequence of events.
Right, that video is being watched. The CJI is also making some comments about relevant timelines. Otherwise, the hearing would go on forever. That's also something, a lighter moment there taking place inside court as that video is being played out. We're given to understand that there's some point, Arunima, that's being made about what kind of ink should be used, what the demand was, and whether the returning officer adhered to that demand or not. And that is something that the Punjab AG is also pointing to.
Yes, as far as how the ballot papers were considered invalid, what kind of defacement happened, all of this is being considered by the court at the moment. What Gurminder Singh said is that it's just a single line. That's the contention, that this ballot which was ruled as invalid, it's just a touch of the pen. And I'm just quoting Gurminder Singh here, the law officer in court, saying that this should not have been considered invalid. It should have been accounted for. But what we have pointed out just a couple of minutes ago also, the court has observed that if they consider these 8 votes valid, would that suffice? But that's just an observation. Whether in the final order this is the stance that the Supreme Court takes, that will be interesting, because Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress Party would then claim victory. They have made allegations of malafide and completely playing with the democratic process when they knocked on the doors of the apex court.
Now, politically speaking,